Carter and Corey. We are your co-hosts.
My name is Carter Lane. This is Corey Ross.
We're a rock band, but we like to talk about all kinds of music.
Sonically, they're much, much different.
I think I'm going to give this album 5 volts.
Hello, girls and boys.
Welcome to the Voltecast.
Is it called the Voltecast?
With your hosts, Carter Lane. Do you think what we said is bullshit? And Corey Ross.
Yeah, it's a love-hate relationship.
Talking about and reviewing all sorts of different albums.
Oh, it sucked. All right, should we give this a go?
What the fuck? What else are we going to do?
Well, shit.
Yeah.
So we have something to settle before we get this started today.
Ooh.
Carter thinks I sound like a fool in our intro. And I think that's bullshit. I think I sound great. My vocal tone is luxurious. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we should have...
Maybe you guys can decide.
You guys should
for
decide.
us.
You should let us know.
Yeah, we made an intro song. I made an intro, and I cut up some pieces from the first couple of times that we tried to do the podcast. Maybe the first episode, I can't really remember. But Corey didn't think it sounded professional enough, and so he wanted to re-record all of his snippet parts, and now he sounds like this, guys. So.
That sounds like the...
What do you think? Should we try again or should we keep it? You have to comment and let us know what you think of the intro. But welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Voltcast. My name is Carter Lane, and with me in person is Mr. Corey Ross. And this is just an amazing fucking deal to be able to see you again, buddy.
Likewise.
I'm so glad we're in the same room, 6 feet apart, and very, very stoked to see you.
That's true. It's really nice to see you in person instead of through a Zoom screen.
Yeah, fuck Zoom. We're tired of Zoom, people.
We're tired of Zoom. And also,
We're not Zooming anymore.
I'm really tired of editing the video from Zoom because you get, like, if the internet connection's bad for 10 seconds, it lags. And then I have to, manipulate the camera and figure it out because somebody's mouth is moving faster than the actual audio. So
yeah, it's a bitch to edit.
Yeah. And we don't want to invest in, really good video software,
because y'all aren't paying us shit. Yeah, this is free 99 to you, so it's free 99 to us.
Exactly. But I'm excited for today. So yeah, if you're just tuning in for the first time, for the first 3 episodes, we reviewed. We compared the 2 Weezer albums. So we did their debut studio album, which is commonly known as the Blue Album or the self-titled album. And then we did Pinkerton week 2. And then week 3, we compared them. And if you listen to those, you know where we stand on that. And then we decided at the end of last week's episode, because not too long ago was the 25th anniversary of, right, 25?
Yeah.
Of Green Day's Insomniac. And so, which Carter brought to my attention. And then we thought, hey, that's a great fucking idea. Why don't we do that album? Because it's actually been a while since I listened to it. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, man. And that's what we're going to be talking about and reviewing today. Give us a thumbs up or a like if you love this album. Give us, your feedback as well when we're done. It'd be awesome to hear what you think about it. And if you've been listening to it along the way, give us some comments about what we maybe didn't cover today that you thought was pretty cool or didn't like about the album. We want to hear from you too. So make sure you do that. But yeah, Green Day's Insomniac, dude. This fucking album takes me back, man. It was released in 1995, December 10th. And I remember going to the first concert that I ever went to was a Green Day concert. And I'm fairly sure it was right after this album came out. I was a fan when they released Dookie. I found out about them, of course. And I think it was not until this album, I didn't see him on the Dookie tour or anything, but I definitely had a Insomniac tour shirt that I wore until it fucking was crusting off of me.
That's awesome.
And my stepdad surprised me with tickets to the concert to go to my very first concert ever. It was fucking Green Day at Oracle Arena in Oakland.
Yeah.
It was a home show. And it was absolutely fucking amazing.
So I was 6 years old when this album came out. And actually, the first time I really got into Green Day was actually in high school. Like I had listened to Dookie in middle school and loved it, but just didn't really get deep into Green Day. And really until American Idiot came out in high school. And it's just because when I was in high school, it was so popular, because it just came out as like When September Ends and all those songs that all the girls listen to.
Yeah.
But my funny memory about Green Day is my dad took me and a couple friends to see them at Pac Bell Stadium in San Francisco.
Nice.
And that was for the American Idiot tour. And there's a part in the middle of the show where Billy Joe, he puts his hand in his pants and he's like, oh yeah. And he starts like feeling himself. And then super loud on the mic, he goes, would somebody just fuck me? And my dad's like chaperoning like a couple freshman kids. And he just sort of looks over and he's like, they're going to find out eventually.
That's so great that your dad took you to see Green Day.
Yeah.
And my dad took me to see Green Day.
Dude.
That's fucking awesome.
My dad used to take me to like all the concerts when I was a kid.
My stepdad took me to see a bunch of shit too. We went and saw Tom Petty at the Fillmore. That was like my second concert. We followed this up with that because he was like, now that we saw one of your bands, we're going to go see one of my bands. And we went and saw Tom Petty. So
what was the first big concert that you went to?
Green Day.
That was the first one.
That was the first concert I ever went. I mean, I went to Sundays in the Park and things like that, but no, that was my first legit concert
I'll bet you $500 right now you can't guess the first concert I went to.
Backstreet Boys.
That's kind of in the same alley. No, Britney Spears was the first concert I ever
Really?
went to. Yeah. And the reason why
I saw Britney?
Dude,
with your sister, huh?
Yeah, because the reason why I was a little kid and they couldn't find a babysitter, and my mom had an extra ticket. She brought my mom and then like my sister and her two friends, and then it was me, and I was just a little kid. Loved it, bro.
Were you game? You were game for it.
It was epic.
Oh,
I was trying to pretend like I wasn't game, but I was game.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, I was in high school when Britney Spears was the shit, and I wanted to go fucking see her.
Dude.
She was fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then the second concert I went to was like 2 years later, and it was Nelly Furtado at the Warfield. Oh, dude. Yeah. But then
let's
after
not
that,
talk about the concerts that Corey's been to.
I finally saw the next one after that was Sum 41, and then I started going to rock concerts. So
that's great, dude. Yeah. I've seen Green Day a lot. I've seen them probably 10 times. And that was the first. And I had tickets to go see them this summer and take my 2 8-year-olds, my twins, to go see them. And it was going to be their first fucking concert. But it got canceled or it got rescheduled to next summer. So we have that to look forward to if that happens. But yeah, I've seen them so many times, and every time I'm just in love with the way that they handle themselves on stage and their fucking antics and their... all of it, and I think it's really cool before we dive into talking about this album, but I think it's really cool that there's 2 sets of kind of Green Day fans, and there's the fans that first saw them or found them through Dookie, which is myself and my generation. And then there's a bunch of people that found them through American Idiot.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really love about Green Day is because they had several albums that they released, and they were kind of, they hit with Dookie, and then they were kind of floating around. And then all of a sudden they released American Idiot, and they became way bigger than they had ever been.
Huge.
And it's like how they continue to stay relative and stay like multi-generational is so cool to me.
Yeah,
it's
that's what I was going to say, is that they're just... Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No.
And they stay true to who they are, I think is something else that's really cool too. They're not completely reinventing themselves every time, but they're so artistic and trying different things. And just Billy Joe is just a fantastic songwriter. And so I think that carries them a long way too.
Well, it's interesting that you say that they stay true to who they are. I agree with that. But like reading about this album at the time, there was a lot of people that felt like when Dookie came out, that they totally sold out. Which we kind of talked about this last week, I think in a different vein. We're more talking about producers and stuff like that. But it's always funny. It's like this automatic thing. If somebody has a successful album, it automatically means that they sold out. And it's like, well, maybe the music's just good.
Well, but I mean, this was back in the early 90s when punk rock was not on the radio. It was not they were the first ones to make this happen. And I think that's where they received a lot of backlash from their own community about what was going on, because before that it was very much like a middle finger to the industry and to everybody from this scene. And so to have somebody come out of that scene and become the thing that everybody else hates had to play a huge role in what they did from there on, you know?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I think, if I remember correctly, it really felt like at that time it was really Blink-182 and Green Day that were these two like trio, you know, punk rock bands that were coming up. Blink-182 obviously like way more embraced pop than Green Day did.
But I think Green Day opened the door for that to happen. Blink-182 kind of came after, like right behind them. And they opened the door for pop punk. You know, the pop punk I don't think existed on a mainstream scale until Green Day happened, until Dookie happened.
Right.
And then this of Insomniac, of course, is the follow-up to Dookie, which was released only a year after.
That's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, man.
I wish we can do our albums that fast.
Yeah, but they also released 2 albums before Dookie, independently, and they did okay. So they were a working touring band for quite a while before Dookie came. They signed to a major label and they wrote and released Dookie, and it blew them up, and they went tour all over the place. So this is then their follow-up to the band's multi-platinum breakthrough Dookie.
Right.
So you want to start?
Well, I mean, sure. Let's start with other music at the time before we totally dive into the album. I was trying to see what I can find here. October 2nd, Oasis released What's the Story, Morning Glory. I think that's the album with Wonderwall. And then October 3rd was Mariah Carey's Daydream. Which
is completely unfair to fucking Green Day because
she was like number 1
dominated
on
the
everything.
charts,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're like happened to release. Yeah, go ahead.
And then on the same day, October 10th, No Doubt released Tragic Kingdom.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Fucking great album.
Dude. Awesome. This is just random, but I found that on October 11th, Tupac Shakur was released from Clinton Correctional Facility. Oh, and then he signed...
the day after.
Yeah, and then that's... I forgot who bailed him out, but in return, he signed with some label.
Yeah, Suge Knight bailed him out, and he signed
you.
to Death Row.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that happened. So yeah, kind of like current music events at the time and stuff like that. But yeah, wow. Okay, as far as this album, damn, haven't listened to it in a really long fucking time, dude.
Yeah.
Real long time. It's one of those things that I just kind of put on the back burner. I hadn't thought about it. And
when did you find out about this album? Like when you heard Green Day through American Idiot, and then you started listening to their other albums?
Well, no, like I was saying, so I heard Green Day through Dookie, and then that was in middle school, and like I think 6th or 7th grade. And then around that same time, I listened to some more Green Day, but it was really only like Brain Stew, you know, because that track was like, yeah. And so I never listened to the album completely at that age. And then it was after American Idiot is where I went back and started listening to this. And I was like, oh, this is way more aggressive and raw, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of cool to be introduced to it from that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Man, but overall... Okay, so I guess there's a lot to dive into this album.
Yeah.
I love how raw it is. And it is just kind of punk rock. You know, every song is going to be quick. It's like your formula, like 2 minutes, you know, the classic Green Day, everything is like 3 chords basically. But that's kind of the brilliance of it. It doesn't have to be complex. It's just got to be good and fast and raw and awesome. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I was reading that, obviously, like all the songs are high tempo. I don't know if you were reading this, but they wanted the album to be aggressive. And so they wanted to do everything fast tempo. So they were posting like where they would rehearse it. I don't know if it was someone's house or something.
Yeah.
They put these notes on the wall underneath the song titles that would like remind them to go faster. I'm trying to look at them right now. And it would say something like, must pop Valium for this one, or must tank crank for this one. So they'd post all these things just to remind them, okay, like faster tempo. And I thought that was pretty funny, as well as drinking excessive amounts of coffee in the recording sessions.
Yeah.
And you know, I love hearing or reading about those backstories into when recording, because it really puts in perspective the feel of the music behind it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely good to get a feel of what the band was doing at the time of recording, as well as like all these little nuances that you didn't know about the album. It gives you like a different perspective, kind of, you know, because it makes it more personal, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you know, without going through every single song in order, I mean, we could do that. It would just take a long time.
Well, what really stood out to you about this album?
So, as far as like opening and closing, I felt like they just killed it. You know, we had opener and closer on the album.
Yeah.
You know, Walking Contradiction was a killer way to go out for me. I love, is it Armitage? I'm going to pronounce that wrong.
Armitage Shanks.
Yeah. Dude, just kind of like classic punk rock style. You're going to start your album with a beat on the toms, go for 4 measures and then roll everything in, you know, but it's perfect. That's what it had to be.
Yeah.
And, so I enjoyed that. And it is, I thought they did a really good job throughout the album of kind of keeping that flow. But then I also thought they did a good job with a couple songs where they broke up that tempo, where it wasn't, everything was up tempo, but it wasn't every single song. Obviously, Brain Stew is one that pops out. That one's more mainstream than everything else. But yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah. I think what you're hinting at is that like not all of them sounded the same.
No.
It wasn't like super formulaic to me. It wasn't like every single song was the same. It was enough switch up, but enough like cohesiveness to where it made a really good album for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. So I have an issue with this album.
Okay.
But it's an issue I have with a lot of albums, so it's not specific to Green Day. It's more punk rock engineering in general. They always, you know, I mean, hey, I'm a guitar player, but I hate it when you put the guitars over the vocals in the mix. And I feel like that's this entire album. And there's just songs where I have to go read the lyrics. And which, you know, it's not the end of the world, but you like to just hear it and know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of one thing that bothers me a little bit about this album in particular, and other ones that are like that.
Interesting.
But other than that, you know, I mean, the whole album, it's really great. It's been a long time since I listened to it. I do have favorite songs and least favorite songs, you know, got to keep one, cut one kind of thing. But I figure I'll wait till the end to say something like that.
Yeah. So this, like I said, I think I have a lot of connection to this album because I found it when I found it and it became one of my favorite albums. I was a humongous fan of Dookie. Like, you know, that's when I heard of Green Day was with Dookie. And so I remember getting this album and being so fucking excited about it and listening to it. And it was just like, they couldn't do any wrong because I was so hooked on them already from Dookie that like, by the time I heard this album and I heard that first song, I was just like, fuck yeah. You know, like
you were just ready for it.
I was so ready for it. And it was like, it's so cool because it's less poppy than Dookie, and it's almost like it needed to be that way for me personally. And thinking of myself as like as like representing the general fans of Green Day, like we heard this poppy, like rad, like punk rock album, and some of us, it was our first introduction into the punk rock scene, into the punk rock world, and so it exposed all these this brand new group of kids and listeners to this music. And we were so ready for more that by the time this came, and this album to me is heavier, like you said, it's faster, it's not as polished, there's not as much pop songs. This to me is very, very reminiscent of the album they came out with before Dookie, which was 1068 Slappy Hap Hours or something like that. It's called. I get some of the songs on this album confused with some of the songs on that. Like I've thought Stewart in the Avenue was on that album, not this album. And there's a couple other ones that I thought were on this, but on that. So it's real reminiscent of that, although I hadn't found it at that point, but I was just ready for it. The raw and the realness. And it was just like getting fed Dookie and eating that up and consuming that and then getting ready for this. And this just came like a fucking punch in the face, you know, and it was rad, you know, it was just so ready for it. So with that being said, going back now and revisiting it, I'm almost biased, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm too attached to it. Although, I didn't pick up on what you were saying with the mix as far as the guitars being louder, because I probably know the lyrics and so I don't hear it or think of it in that way. But there's definitely like there's definitely little mixing things here and there where I would like to hear more or less of things. But overall, I think it's just fucking awesome. I love how it's just like a big fuck you kind of, and it's got so much attitude, and like it's so good, and it makes me fucking wanna play punk rock music. The one thing that really stands out to me in this album, and this is not from my childhood, but the one thing that stands out to me in this album and has for a long time is the bass playing. I fucking love the bass playing in this album. It is so good, and it is what really like drew me into picking up the bass when I finally did pick up the bass at like 16 or whatever. It's so good, dude.
I think
he's such a rad fucking punk bass player.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like punk bass tones, I think his is one of the best.
Yeah.
And it does stand out on this album. In fact, I wish it was highlighted more, because there's a couple songs where it's like a quick like bass fill.
Yeah.
I forgot what song it is, but the guitar's just playing these ghost notes and he's like picking the bass, and I'm like, and it only lasts for like 2 measures. And I'm like, dude, you could have made that go for...
we needed more of that.
Yeah. And so
yeah, I
agree though. I really liked his style on the bass, and I feel like that's pretty definitive of a lot of Green Day stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, and the drums definitely show up in this album, I think a little bit more than Dookie. We're not comparing the two, but just the drums show up in this album in ways. And of course, like the songwriting, just the lyrics I enjoy. The carefreeness of them. I enjoy the creativity in them. I enjoy the way that they're not directly about something. They're interpretive. You know, they can mean something different to me than they do for you. I really like that style of lyrics. And I think they make such an awesome sound for a 3-piece in this album particularly.
Yeah, I actually agree with that a lot, and I was thinking about that, how it's, you know, 3-piece bands can be hard. Like you can't do too much, so you have to know what your limitations are. Yeah, and you have to cater to that style, especially depending on the genre of music. Yeah, but I feel like this album in general is kind of like the We're Here to Stay album, as far as like the follow up to Dookie. Yeah. Because there was a lot of criticism for people that were with Green Day before that, you know, you're going mainstream and stuff like that. And they were disappointed with that. And I think that goes into why they were so aggressive with this album. They were like, hey, fuck you. We're here to stay. Yeah. You know, this is who we are. Yeah. And I think they really established themselves as one of the biggest bands in the world. American Idiot was when they really established themselves as like super mainstream, or having a mainstream presence. But as far as just being a band that will punch you in the face, but that could also still have a hit on the radio, I feel like that was this album right here. Yeah.
I feel like they were very well known in Europe and America, and then American Idiot came out, and they're like worldwide superstars. Yeah. That's the level that I think that took them to. I agree. But yeah, the ones that really stick out to me on this album, 86, because it's a song about kind of that. I love that song. It's a song just written specifically about Gilman Street, where they kind of grew up playing. They're from Oakland. The drummer is actually from Willits, which is about 15, 20 minutes up the road from where we are here in Ukiah. And they grew up in this punk rock club, you know, playing these punk rock shows, and then they made it into the mainstream with Dookie, and a lot of people turned their backs on them within that scene, and of course then they gained all these other fans and stuff, and so I think they had a kind of a tumultuous relationship with fans of their first couple of albums, and probably with themselves in what are we doing and what are we becoming sort of thing. But the song 86 is definitely dedicated towards those people who turn their backs, and it's kind of from that perspective. And so that one really sticks out to me. I like that a lot. I really like the next song, Panic Song, which comes and it's just the bass, like fucking fast strumming for days, dude. And then the guitar and then like, it's really cool. Like break to the album. It's number 8 in the order of 14 songs. It's like, it's just really good, really well placed. And I love the album Inner Walking Contradiction too. Brain Stew, Stewart in the Avenue is one of my favorite songs. I learned how to play that on bass when I was first trying to play bass. And so, yeah, man, there's a lot of them that stick out to me.
So that's funny. So a couple things of that, as far as the first thing you're saying is like the response to people kind of turning their back on them.
Yeah.
I did find this quote that I thought was interesting from Billy Joe. He says, on that subject, he says, I think I was just lost. I couldn't find the strength to convince myself that what I was doing was a good thing. I was in a band that was huge because it was supposed to be huge because our songs were that good. But I couldn't even feel that I was doing the right thing because it felt like I was making so many people angry.
Fuck.
And that's a fucking terrible feeling to have, you know, because you want to be able to be proud of the success that you've had and the art that you've produced and the audience that has reached.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just an important reminder when you start putting yourself out there, like that's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And no matter what level of success or, you know, non-success that you're at.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. And when you and I were in the previous band that we were in, we traveled and we did all these things, and all we wanted was for more and more and more people to hear our music, you know? And I think that's their idea, the punk rock idea as well, but like without major label help.
Right.
Which is a completely different environment than it is now than it was in the 90s. Then in the 90s you needed that, right? You needed the major label. Now not so much, you know, there's a lot of independent artists making it and it's way easier because of everything else that's going on. But I think back then, you know, it was kind of the us versus them sort of thing, and seeing them as the, like, you know, money makers and the machine, the man, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Well, it's like, yeah, if punk rock is about being against the system and that's a part of the system. So I can understand that, but yeah,
but it had to be tough for the band. Like,
yeah,
they're experiencing all this success and like things that people fucking dream about, right? All musicians, all we dream about is becoming Green Day. And they're here they are, Green Day, and they're like, man, all these people are fucking pissed at us. Like, how tainting, like that just...
It sucks.
I mean, they obviously made it through because they're still fucking huge and relevant, but it's had to be a struggle for them.
So the lesson is to anybody out there starting a band, just do what you want to fucking do, man.
Just fucking go for it.
Obviously, it's like we're saying, it's different than the 90s. It's a whole different, mentality that the general public has. But yeah, there's always going to be people that are going to criticize.
Yeah, man, you can't do it for other people. You have to do it for yourself 100%. And for your brothers that you're doing it with.
Yeah.
That's what really matters, because people are going to say what they're going to say that has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your art or music. You just do it and keep your head down and do what you need to do. And if you find success, then it's meant to be. And if you don't, then that's meant to be as well.
Yeah.
You know, so...
100%.
So, okay, what's your favorite song?
So that was the funny part, is that 86 and Panic Song are my two favorite songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So
dude.
dope. And so here's
we're going to cover one of those songs.
Dude, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about Panic Song to me was I love long intros. Love long intros. And I was thinking about this because every time we write music, and like I'll send you like an instrumental and for you to put some vocals on or mess with.
Yeah.
And the intro is always super long because I'll just let the music take me wherever I'm feeling before I get into like a structure. And you're always like, so when did the lyrics come in, or when does the verse come in? And I'll, like an honest
after
answer.
the first 32 measures.
An honest answer would be like minute 42 seconds. And he's just every single time, dude. Carter's like,
oh my God,
dude, you got to cut that at least in half.
Yeah, but did you hear what I said? I said it's nice to break up the album with one song in the middle of the album, possibly that has a long intro.
So that's what
done.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that I feel like that's a really good technique they used on this album and in other albums where every single song starts super quick. Right. And that's kind of punk rock in general.
Well, every single song, there's not a song that's over 3 minutes and 13 seconds is their longest song, and that's Brain Stew. So,
and that's what makes Panic Song stand out, is that all the other songs, though they don't all sound the same.
No, excuse me. Panic Song is their longest song.
Panic is the longest,
3 minutes and 35 seconds.
Right. And so because every single song starts fast, either with a drum fill or the band just starts, or like the vocals start with one line and then everything jumps in. It's always super quick. But Panic Song is this long intro, and I feel like that's what kind of makes it so epic on the album.
Totally.
And so it's, it's kind of like a learning lesson for me. I'm like,
and it's just rad. Like you hear him strumming that bass, and you're like, how long is he going to fucking do this for?
Yeah.
And then it goes through the whole song.
Right.
You like, I thought he was going to stop
kind of
when
like
the guitar
it's a big
came
build
in.
up
Like,
really the whole time.
So sick.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are very short. Like there's not very many lyrics, so I think that's a good way to show off the 3-piece band,
right?
Too, And I don't think, going back to their sound as a 3-piece, I don't think when they recorded they added a lot of extras. I'm pretty sure this is how they played live. I mean, there might be a couple other guitars that aren't there if it was just the three of them, but I don't think they did too much extra.
It sounds like. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it would be just the three of them for the most part. I mean, if you watch them perform this, just a 3-piece live, it would pretty much sound like that.
Yeah, they were just a 3-piece when I saw them on this tour too. They didn't have any other extra players or anybody else. They were just them.
Right. Yeah. Okay, if you had to cut one song, you have to cut a song. What would it be?
If I had to cut a song, it would be the second to last song, Tight One
Oh my
Hill.
God, dude. Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. We agree.
Awesome. Wow, that's actually really rare.
Yeah, dude. There's nothing wrong with it, but that would be the one.
Yeah, I agree. It's still a great song, but it's like if I had to pick one, it just doesn't do as much as all the other tracks. Yeah,
100%.
That's awesome.
That's fucking rad, dude.
Dude.
Yeah, I think overall it's absolutely great. It's like a fucking punk rock staple in my collection, and it's so cool to listen back to, not only for nostalgia reasons, but just I worked out this morning and turned it on, and it's just like, fuck yeah, dude. It just really connects me with that punk rock part of myself that I really love. So
gets the juices flowing.
Fuck yeah, it does.
Carter, how many volts would you give this album?
Oh, dude, this is a 5-volt album.
Ooh, okay. Wow. Your first 5 out of 5.
Yes.
Okay.
It's only the
nostalgia,
third album.
The nostalgia plays in.
Totally. Yeah. I'm totally biased. I'll be the first one to admit it. You guys can call me out on it if you want, but dude, it's great, man. I can't say hardly anything bad about it, and that's rare for me for an album. And
I would give it 4.
4.
Yeah.
Didn't you give Weezer?
I gave the Blue album 4.
4. So this is on par with the Blue album to you?
They're about equal.
Wow.
They're completely different, obviously.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I'd give it 4.
Okay.
Because then I gave Pinkerton 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a fucking great album. 5 is tough, dude.
Yeah. 5 is tough.
I'm reserving that for.
I know, dude.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
We don't have much to compare it with, seeing as we've reviewed. This is the third album, so we'll get there. But I think a scale of like 1 to 10 is too much. I think
it's too wide of a range.
You got to narrow it down to 5.
Yeah.
So wow, 4 and 5. What do you guys give it? Let us know in the comment section. On the scale of 1 to 10. No. On a scale of 1 to 5.
Yeah.
What would you give it? 1 through 5. Let us know.
Yeah.
And let us know too what you think. And if you have listened to this, let us know your thoughts, please. Don't forget to like and subscribe and rate the podcast, and share with anybody who you think might be a Green Day fan or a rock music fan or anything like that, a fan of music. We're going to be doing these on the weekly, so please tune in, and don't forget to spread the word to other people. We don't know what we're going to do next week, but we will let everybody know before we do that, so you guys who are following along with us can listen and follow along too. We'll put it in the comments section or the description of this one, and you guys can find it there.
Carter, let's cover 86.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So look for that. Volt, our band, is going to be covering, most likely cover 86 off of this album, so we'll put that out as soon as we can.
Yeah.
And we hope that you enjoyed the last couple of podcasts. Corey, any final thoughts?
It's just nice to see you, bub.
Nice to see you too, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. I second everything Carter said about subscribing and commenting and all that fun jazz. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you guys.